Okay, so before we do that, just briefly, we had a great year, great season. How would you summarize?
I think two things for me. One was, for the first time ever, really in the 10 years, we've brought significant technologies, new technologies to the fore, and you had the big three: the swamp, 10X, and the money pit. You had to go at the money pit,
yes,
with high-tech gear,
and I got out of the swamp.
and you got out of the swamp. But we are going back
Yeah,
there,
yeah,
whether you
yeah,
like
yeah,
it or
yeah.
not. So that's the new side, and then we brought back technology that we have been using, i.e. Gary Drayton with the metal detecting, and we made some, I think, some significant finds. Now we've yet to interpret the value, the significance of those finds,
Right.
in my opinion. But I've always said, and I continue to believe, that this is every bit an information hunt as it is a treasure hunt. And I
Well, a lot of that stuff's still being analyzed, right? The coins, because we found a whole bunch of coins, a lot of coins in one spot. That was new. And those are all being analyzed, right? Those have been sent away to see what they date out at. So that'll be interesting. And then to me, it was that digging you mentioned, with the big equipment. I'm really proud because it was a technologically difficult thing. And we pulled it off. We dug in the money pit. We certainly verified, we're closing in on the original location of the money pit with all the data we're pulling out from underground. So I would say those are the most significant things.
And the other thing too is what really I believed in and wanted to see done was for Dan Henske to have charge of a project, i.e. the work in Smith's Cove. Dan sincerely believed that we could find the long sought after and fabled drain system. And we think that we came to an assessment, if you will. Perhaps we didn't find the true box-covered drains, but certainly we found evidence that there was man-made.
Some sort of, what's
it?
it? Box drain, French drain. I mean, something to channel water. Sure, it looks like you found it.
Well, the description of the two pieces of flagstone with a top cover over it.
You might have found what was left.
It's possible. It's possible.
It's typical you, Rick. He's really happiest because Dan Henske had vindication. He never thinks anybody else, which is really nice. Let's do the questions. These are fan questions. All right, I've got one here from Joan, and Joan says, will you continue to look for other possible treasure troves on Oak Island, or perhaps broaden your horizons and search elsewhere in the world? Well, that's a great question. I think before I won't say give up because he'll shoot me if I use the word give up, but
Surely push it.
yeah, exactly. There's a kind of a high chair. Yeah, we're going to look all over Oak Island because one of my pet theories is that the money pit is a ruse, that whatever was buried there is buried in a much easier to get location. So we're going to look around. And then the second part of this question is great in that, yeah, it does. This sort of treasure hunting is infectious. And we've already invested. I'll just tell you, we've already invested in some other treasures around the world with some success. So that's your turn.
This one's from Patricia. Says, Rick, Marty, when you find the fingers of the filtration system, might it be possible to block or divert the main arm so that once the bladder system is empty, the water won't flood back into the tunnels and shafts? Love the show. Thanks for the adventure. Well, I appreciate the kind words, but the filtration system is a bit more complex for one simple reason, and this relates to everything on Oak Island. 220 years of search has been highly disruptive, those processes, those search agendas. So we're not really sure that the integrity of that filter system remains to the extent that it can be found and blocked off. But we're certainly trying.
Yeah, I would just simply say I don't believe you can shut off the water anymore. I think if it was as described at one time you could, but because of what Rick just said, you can't anymore. So James says, love the search for the history of the truth. Guys, don't give up. Don't give up, Rick. Which he's not going to. My question to you all is, in your heart, what do you all believe the truth is about who came to Oak Island? The history, I believe, is more important than the treasure. You would certainly agree with that. I'm not totally sold on that. But the short answer is I don't know. I don't know. Something odd happened there. Somebody came there. Somebody deposited coconut fibers in mass quantities. Somebody did some odd things there. I don't know who it was. After 10 years of search, we don't know who that entity was.
I totally agree, but the search continues. It's every bit as much information hunt as treasure hunt. This one's from Mike. Rick and Marty, what has been your greatest achievement so far? Also, do you plan further investigation at the hatch? Regarding the hatch, some new information has come to light. A researcher has come forward using what's called sacred geometry and gematria. We have X marks the spot. It's close to the so-called hatch, but the hatch, as was shown in the show, I think we've explored that to the point where it's, we've kind of written that off. But that spot. But this new information is very intriguing, and stay tuned.
Joey says, here's my question. Why can't you go down in 10X, place a big canvas balloon in the flood tunnels, blow them up, drain what's at the bottom, and inspect what's there without the murky water? We thought about this. We thought about actually using a plastic type thing that would inflate against the sides, and then you could see through it. It would push the murky water away. I mean, this is a good idea, but it's the same answer. Things have been so messed up, and there are so many places that water comes in now because of the searching and frankly, dynamiting and things like that, that I just don't think this will work. It's a good idea. We kicked it around ourselves, but I just think technologically it won't work at this point.
Well, plus that flies in the face of your belief that the case on, the integrity of the case on won't be sufficient.
Well, but actually, that wouldn't be a problem. He's talking about a pressurized system. We would have internal pressure, or at least there could be a way to keep the internal pressure. Because I'm worried about collapse. So,
okay, this one's from Paul. There seems to be the potential of there being more than just one treasure. Any thoughts as to how many different treasures could be on and around the island? The short answer to that is no. I've always believed since I was a little boy that the island had been suborned by more than one party to do something. That elusive proof is just that, still elusive. But I do believe that there's perhaps the island has been used by more than one group, entity.
They said no.
What was it? There seems to be a no that I don't. It says any thoughts as to how many. No.
You don't know many, but you think there are more than one.
I do.
Okay.
I do.
All right. Well, I think it's Alyssa, says, has anyone ever put energy into surveying or excavating the nearby islands for evidence of work camps? The answer to that is absolutely yes. The last show we talked to, what was his name? Gary Clayton, and he spent an enormous amount of money on Little Mash, and we get information from people all the time about how they've found strange signs on this island and that island, and theories that the tunnels actually connect them all. So yes, there's been a lot of work done on that. We haven't done a lot of it, but others have.
Now this one's from Corey. What did you find or discover that convinced you that it was worthwhile to spend big money on excavations? You and your team seem like you cross your T's and dot your I's. So there must have been one or more particular things that told you you're not wasting money.
Wait, who is this?
Corey.
Corey needs to come to the war room from now.
For me, it's just a simple matter of faith. And that's really what it is. I mean, yes, we found intriguing things. Yes, it's been 220 years of search. Some incredibly talented people have come and gone with as much passion, as much fortitude, as much interest, as much money, and have failed. But they believed. And I think the core of Oak Island is believing. I think you need to have faith no matter what you endeavor to do in life. And I believe that there's a reason to continue. Can I articulate it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? In some ways, yes, but the core of my wanting to continue is believing.
That's where Rick and I often disagree, because you know what, I wouldn't have.
How would you answer that?
I'm about to. No, belief isn't enough. Belief isn't enough. Unsupported belief, I don't think, is enough. And I'm not saying he's wrong. I just disagree. I think we found enough, and maybe it's just pure sort of cussed stubbornness, but I wasn't about to leave that island without digging in the money pit. There's been an awful lot of things described in there that are worth going after. But I would not proceed just on faith. But that doesn't make you wrong. It doesn't make me right. Mary Scott asks, in Smith's Cove, instead of trying to find the ends of the box drain in the water, can't you dig a trench further up on the bank, following the water coastline, to find the one main box that connects the other and stop the water flow that way? Absolutely excellently analyzed, has been done. Dunfield had a go at that, I believe.
On the South Shore.
Not on the...
Blair did it. They drilled a series of holes across the shoreline. They actually put in 100...
But not Smith's Cove.
In Smith's Cove.
Okay, that's what I
Dunfield
thought.
did the South Shore.
Okay.
Blair did, they actually, in one of the holes, they put dynamite in each of the holes.
There you go again.
And somewhere between, I believe, 80 and 140 pounds of dynamite. And the one hole that contained 140 pounds of dynamite, they actually thought they had intersected the confluence of the drains. And the reason why they believe that is because a huge gush of water came up out of that hole. And then after that explosion, what they did is they put a bunch of clay into Smith's Cove, and the water in the money pit. Well, two things happened. After the explosion, the water in the money pit roiled and boiled, and obviously there was a connection between the hole that had been dug on the shoreline and the money pit. The other thing that happened is they pushed a bunch of clay out into Smith's Cove, and almost immediately, the water in the money pit became muddied. So they may have done some interdiction, if you will, but not enough to allow us to go down.
Yeah, to me that was a bad idea. I guess dynamite blows things up. Dynamite doesn't seal things, especially when I think their concept of the drain was wrong. The drain, as I understand it, is a series of rocks that are keeping the water flow. Well, you're not going to stop that with dynamite. You might make it worse.
I suppose their thought was they could collapse it.
Or whatever. I never would have used dynamite because that just screws everything up. I mean, I wouldn't have done it. Again, doesn't make them wrong, doesn't make me right, but I wouldn't have done it.
Back then?
Well, it might have been fun. Blowing things up. I mean, that's a great thing.
No, but back then, you wonder. I mean, here's the criticism of Robert Dunfield's enterprise was, why did he take the big Orton crane and dig the giant hole?
No, I get that. He thought he was going to find it.
Well, plus he used the technology that was available.
Well, dynamite's still available. Anyway, I think the short answer is you can't stop the water anymore. It's coming in from multiple places now from all the pumping. So anyway, Mary Scott's analysis, I would rather than what you just described. I think what she's describing would have been better had it been done when things were still intact. Come across, find it, block it. That's a great idea. And don't dynamite a bunch of holes.
The water table there is so low, how would you know if you had cut it?
You should see this rocks. You should see the rocks. I mean,
you know how difficult it was.
I know, but it's not a bad idea.
It's not a bad idea. The concept
if
is
things
fantastic.
weren't so messed up, I think we thought about doing this year, this very thing. So it's a good idea. Whose turn is it? Mine? Yeah. Oh, yours. Go ahead.
This one's from Sherry. Absolutely love the show. Can't wait until Tuesday evenings to get my Rick and Marty fix. My question is, how do you as brothers keep up the optimism and beliefs? Both of you are an inspiration and an example of the true meaning of brothership. For me, it's easy to be optimistic and believe because I fall back on I've always believed. And it's not just faith. I agree with Marty that look, we've made some interesting finds. We've done some incredible research, and because of the show, because of people like yourselves, we constantly get new information. We get with these questions, we get quite intuitive questions and information from people. We've not come to Oak Island with a belief that surely we're the ones and we're the only ones. That's just not who we are.
No. So Laura says,
What do you think?
What this? Oh, I don't know. I get it from you, I think. The inspiration. I go up and down, you know that. I've been ready to quit a couple times, honestly, but I come back to what you say. You don't want to leave with regrets, and we're closing in. We're throwing a lot of assets at this. I'm hoping for some significant success pretty soon, and there's some interesting things coming up on the next 2 episodes too. Laura says, why do you think that the treasure is even still buried there? Isn't it a possibility that the treasure has already been found and taken hundreds of years ago? This is one of my big worries, Laura. Absolutely. If somebody went to all this bother to put in this hugely complicated treasure protection system, they would have known how to get around it. Could have come back without much fanfare at all and got the thing. I mean, there could be some people laughing in their graves right now at the Lagina brothers, but Rick doesn't believe that, and I think it's a possibility. And even if this was on. I think it's a possibility, and even if that did happen, there could be stuff there yet. And remember, you always say that doesn't foreclose the idea of figuring out the whole mystery, which is part of this search.
This one's from James. Why don't you use ground penetrating sonar instead of regular metal detectors? I don't know if you're talking about seismic. The problem with all of that underground technology, it really is the interpretive side of that technology is looking for shallow depth features, small anomalous features at shallow depths is really in its infancy. We were asked actually by a company that had come in with this radically new technologies, and they actually asked us to fund their research regarding interpreting small anomalous features at shallow depths, because they didn't have that capability. And so it's a great idea. We would love to pursue it, but we've always thought about using seismic. But seismic, you're looking for large anomalies at great depths, and it's not applicable in this situation. So, but we're constantly keeping an open mind and hoping that some new technologies will surface.
So, Rich asks, is it possible to put an airlock on T1 or C1 and pressurize it to push out the water? Air might also escape from the flood tunnels, revealing their location. Of course, entry into the dry holes would be dangerous, and a lengthy decompression would be needed to prevent the bends. It would be a modern-day equivalent of building the Brooklyn Bridge. Rich is exactly correct. This is something we are entertaining. We had entertained this for 10X. It wouldn't work in 10X because of all the different leaks everywhere, but it might very well work in C1. We do. I mean, we have a pipe in place sufficiently stout to take this pressure. It would be working. Rich obviously understands the physics of this, because you would be working as if you were diving all the time, and so it would have to be almost like a saturation dive. But this might work. We are thinking about doing this.
Easy to cap it.
Yeah, it would work in those two. He's absolutely correct. It's a great thought.
This one's from Steve. What if the flood tunnels were actually originally ventilation shafts that have become flood tunnels as the sea levels have risen? Could it be that the actual caverns/caves are much older than they are believed to be, and that the vertical money pit was originally dug to reach the cavern after the sea levels rose? Again, is it a possibility? Absolutely, it's a possibility, and we're still trying to figure out, the whys and wherefores of it. But I think that the work that we did in Smith's Cove this year, the fact that I think we believe that there's a French drain out there, that is counterintuitive to what he's arguing here. But could this be so? Yes, it could be.
Okay, I think this is my last one. It is from John, and he says, there is a known underwater dive that supposedly resulted in finding a chamber that seems similar to a tomb with Templar artifacts and maybe even a body. Why have you never had your diver take a look? It seems relatively inexpensive and not too time consuming. I don't quite understand this question, because we did have our diver take a look. I mean, he couldn't see. It was all by feel in 10X. And some of these things were sort of come and go, John. In other words, the body, we think we've eliminated that was a body. It was kind of Rick doesn't, of course, but we have sent a diver down to do this, and we're not done looking.
No, not in 10X.
Do you have any more?
No, that's it.
Okay. Well, there's the Q&A. Thank you all. We really appreciate it. We appreciate the support. from everybody out there. I mean, I've never been involved. I said this, say it again, and Rick, I'm sure will agree. Never been involved in something where everybody wants you so badly to succeed, and it means a lot to us. It helps us in our sort of dark moments. And then we've been asked to, what do you want to say anything?
What dark moments?
I have dark moments. I have dark moments, okay? You know, can't get discouraged, Rick, you know that. You do even sometimes.
Yeah, well, yes and no.
Okay.
But I do also want to reiterate what Marty just said. I mean, in any endeavor in life, wherever you set your goals, no matter what you attempt to do, it seems as though there's always a naysayer. There's always someone who will say to you, you can't, you shouldn't, you won't. And in this particular endeavor, Oak Island, we have never heard that from anyone. Not only have the people in the province of Nova Scotia been highly supportive of
Government, the government's been supportive, the environmental people.
but everyone else is indicative or indicated by these questions. I mean, everyone is so fascinated by the mystery and so involved and intrigued and interested. The support we've received, I can't say thank you enough.
Same, I agree. Yep. Okay, and then we've been asked for, okay, there's 2 more episodes, there's some really interesting things, you know, we hope you all stay tuned, obviously. And so we were asked for a teaser, and we kicked this around a little bit, right? Mm-hmm. And I think maybe everybody's a little bit sick of wood. I mean, the wood is highly significant, and we're trying to date it all, and, you know, some has been hand-hewn, and some has been circular sawed, and we're looking for original workings. I'll just say this, I will say this. In the next 2 episodes, it's not just wood. Look for metal. How's that?
Perfect.
Okay, thank you all. Appreciate it. Keep your faith in us. It's appreciated.
Keep believing, and thank you.